The way you begin your day can influence everything that comes after it. Before you complete your first important task, before you make your first serious decision, and before you accomplish anything meaningful, you have already made one major decision what you are going to give your attention to. Most people don't realize how valuable their attention is. They wake up, reach for their phone, check notifications, scroll through social media, watch random videos, read messages, look at other people's lives, and absorb hundreds of opinions before they have even decided what they personally want to accomplish. Then several hours later, they wonder where their motivation went. The problem isn't always a lack of motivation. Sometimes the problem is that their attention was given away before they had the opportunity to use it for themselves. If you want to change your life, start by taking back control of your mornings. Your morning doesn't need to be complicated. You don't need a 20-step routine or some perfect schedule that looks impressive on paper. You need intention. When you wake up, know what matters. Give yourself a moment before allowing the outside world to dictate your thoughts. Instead of immediately asking what everyone else is doing, ask yourself what you need to accomplish today. What is the one task that would make today productive? What responsibility have you been avoiding? What skill needs your attention? What action would move you closer to the person you want to become? That simple shift changes the direction of your day because you are no longer beginning as a consumer. You are beginning as a decision maker. Your phone can wait. The notifications can wait. The endless stream of opinions can wait. Your goals should not constantly have to compete with distractions for the first place in your mind. When you immediately consume other people's content, you allow other people to determine what you think about before you have decided what deserves your attention. This is especially dangerous because distraction doesn't always feel like distraction. Sometimes it feels productive. You may tell yourself that you're checking something important, but one notification becomes another video, another post, another message, and suddenly 30 minutes have disappeared. 30 minutes may not seem like much, but repeat that every day for a year, and you have given away hundreds of hours. This is why time management isn't only about making schedules. It's about understanding where your attention goes. You need to become protective of your time. There will always be something trying to capture it. There will always be another notification, another video, another argument, another piece of entertainment, another person asking for your attention. If you respond to everything immediately, you will spend your life reacting instead of creating. You need periods where your phone is away, your notifications are silent, and your attention belongs completely to the task in front of you. This is where focus becomes a competitive advantage. When you can sit down and work on one important task without constantly checking something else, you can accomplish more in an hour than someone who spends 3 hours constantly switching between distractions. Deep focus is uncomfortable at first because your brain has become accustomed to constant stimulation. You may feel the urge to check your phone. You may suddenly remember something unimportant. You may feel bored. That discomfort is exactly why you need to practice it. Don't run from boredom every time it appears. Learn to sit with it. Learn to work through it. Your ability to remain focused when the task isn't exciting is one of the foundations of discipline. Anyone can concentrate when something is entertaining. The real test is whether you can concentrate when the work is repetitive, difficult, or uncomfortable. You should also decide your priorities before the day becomes chaotic. If you wake up without knowing what needs to be done, everything feels equally important. You respond to whatever appears first. Someone sends a message, you respond. You see an email, you check it. You remember a small task, you do it. You hear about something new, you chase it. By the end of the day, you've been busy but haven't necessarily moved forward. Being busy isn't the same as being productive. Productivity means your time is producing meaningful progress. Choose the important tasks first. You might have dozens of things you could do, but only a few will genuinely move your life forward. Identify those tasks and give them your best attention. If something is urgent but unimportant, don't allow it to consume the entire day. If something is important but uncomfortable, don't keep pushing it into tomorrow simply because another easy task is available. Your most important work often isn't the work you feel like doing. That's why discipline matters. You need to stop asking yourself whether you feel motivated before every responsibility. Motivation is unreliable. Some mornings you'll wake up energized. Other mornings you'll feel tired. Some days you'll be excited about your goals. Other days you'll question whether your effort is worth it. If your behavior changes every time your mood changes, your progress will always be inconsistent. Instead, create standards. If you've decided that something matters, give it a place in your day. If you want to exercise, schedule it. If you want to study, schedule it. If you need to work on an important project, protect the time. The purpose of a routine isn't to make your life boring. It's to reduce unnecessary decision-making. When the decision has already been made, you don't have to waste energy negotiating with yourself every morning. You should also pay attention to the first hour of your day because it can create momentum. If you start by doing something useful, you create evidence that you're in control. If you start by wasting an hour, you may spend the rest of the day trying to recover from that feeling. One small productive action can change your psychological state. Make your bed if that helps create order. Drink water, move your body, review your priorities, start your most important task. The exact routine matters less than the intention behind it. And don't underestimate the importance of your physical environment. If your workspace is filled with distractions, focus becomes harder. If your phone is beside your hand, checking it becomes effortless. If your room is chaotic, it can contribute to a chaotic mindset. Make your environment support the person you are trying to become. Put distractions farther away. Prepare your workspace before you begin. Keep the things you need accessible. Remove unnecessary temptations. You shouldn't have to fight yourself every second. Make good decisions easier. Make bad habits harder. That is intelligent discipline. Another important habit is learning to say no. Every yes has a cost because your time is limited. When you say yes to another unnecessary commitment, you're saying no to something else, even if you don't realize it. You don't need to attend every event, respond to every message, participate in every argument, or have an opinion about every topic. Protect your attention by deciding what actually deserves it. There is tremendous power in being unavailable for things that don't matter. That doesn't mean becoming isolated or ignoring responsibilities. It means becoming selective. Your goals require attention, and attention requires boundaries. You should also stop measuring your day only by how much you accomplished. Measure how well you controlled yourself. Did you stay focused? Did you avoid unnecessary distractions? Did you complete the responsibility you promised yourself you would complete? Did you use your time according to your priorities? Did you spend your energy on things that actually matter? These questions reveal something deeper than productivity. They reveal self-control. And self-control grows through repetition. Every time you resist an unnecessary distraction, you're practicing control. Every time you finish an important task before entertainment, you're practicing control. Every time you put your phone away and focus, you're practicing control. Every time you wake up and choose your priorities instead of immediately reacting to the world, you're practicing control. One day won't transform your entire life, but one disciplined day can prove that change is possible. Then you repeat it tomorrow and the next day. Eventually, the behavior that once required enormous effort begins becoming normal. Your mornings become more intentional. Your attention becomes stronger. Your priorities become clearer. Your time becomes more valuable to you. You begin noticing how much energy you use to waste on things that never moved your life forward. And that awareness is powerful because once you understand that your attention is one of your most valuable resources, you stop giving it away so easily and start treating every morning, every hour, every decision, and every focus period of work as an opportunity to build the life you keep saying you want. If you want to change your life, you cannot only work on your thoughts while neglecting your actions. Your mind and your body are connected, and the way you treat your body can influence the way you approach challenges everywhere else in life. You don't need to become obsessed with fitness or spend hours in a gym every day. What you need is the habit of deliberately doing things that require effort, consistency, and self-control. Because every time you choose to do something difficult instead of something comfortable, you are teaching yourself an important lesson: discomfort does not control you. Most people spend their days looking for the easiest possible option. If something is difficult, they postpone it. If they are tired, they stop. If they don't feel motivated, they wait. If the task requires patience, they look for a shortcut. Over time, this creates a dangerous habit of avoiding discomfort. The problem isn't that comfort is always bad. Rest, relaxation, and enjoyment are necessary parts of a balanced life. The problem begins when comfort becomes your default response to every challenge. You need to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. Physical training is one of the simplest ways to practice this. When you exercise, your body gives you reasons to stop. Your muscles become tired. Your breathing becomes heavier. You feel the urge to slow down. You have to decide whether you're going to continue according to your plan or immediately obey that feeling. That decision may seem small, but repeated decisions like that can strengthen your discipline. Training teaches you that effort has a cost. It teaches you that progress requires repetition. It teaches you that you can experience discomfort without immediately escaping from it. And those lessons don't stay inside the gym. They can influence the way you approach work, studying, business relationships, and personal responsibilities. When you've practiced pushing through reasonable physical discomfort, difficult mental tasks can become easier to approach. You begin understanding that the first feeling of resistance isn't always a signal to quit. Sometimes it's simply the feeling of doing something that requires growth. This is why you should stop expecting every productive activity to feel good. There will be days when you don't want to train. There will be mornings when you would rather stay in bed. There will be moments when you would rather watch something entertaining than study a difficult subject. There will be tasks that are boring, repetitive, or frustrating. If you make your behavior dependent on how you feel in that moment, your progress will constantly change. Discipline means you can make a decision based on what matters rather than what feels easiest right now. That doesn't mean ignoring your health or pushing yourself recklessly. Discipline includes knowing when your body needs recovery and when your mind needs rest. The goal is not punishment. The goal is control. You want to become someone who can distinguish between genuine exhaustion and simple resistance. Sometimes you need to recover. Other times you simply don't want to do the work. Learning the difference is part of becoming disciplined. Start small enough that you can remain consistent. If you have not exercised for months, you don't need to immediately create an extreme training routine. Begin moving, walk, train within your ability, build strength gradually, improve your nutrition, get enough sleep. Give your body the resources it needs to perform. The objective isn't to impress people for 1 week. The objective is to establish a pattern you can maintain. And while you're training your body, train your mind as well. Your mind needs resistance too. Read something difficult. Learn a skill that doesn't come naturally. Work without constantly checking your phone. Sit with a problem instead of immediately searching for entertainment. Have a conversation you've been avoiding. Finish a project before starting another one. Spend time thinking without needing constant stimulation. These activities strengthen your ability to tolerate mental discomfort. Modern life makes distraction incredibly easy. Whenever you're bored, you can reach for your phone. Whenever you're uncomfortable, you can find entertainment. Whenever you're frustrated, you can escape into something that requires no effort. But if you constantly escape discomfort, you never learn how to handle it. You become dependent on stimulation to feel good. That's why deliberately choosing difficult but useful activities can be so powerful. For example, decide that for 1 week, you will complete one task every day that you genuinely don't want to do but know is good for you. It could be exercising, studying, organizing your finances, cleaning your workspace, finishing a difficult assignment, or making progress on a project you've been avoiding. The specific task isn't as important as the principle. You are practicing doing what needs to be done rather than what feels easiest. Every completed difficult task becomes evidence. You prove to yourself that you can act without waiting for perfect motivation. That evidence builds self-respect. Real confidence often comes from knowing that you can trust yourself. If you constantly make promises to yourself and break them, your confidence suffers. You may tell yourself that tomorrow you'll start. Tomorrow comes and you postpone again. After enough repetitions, you stop believing your own promises. Reverse that pattern. Make smaller promises and keep them. If you say you're going to train, train. If you say you're going to study for 30 minutes, study for 30 minutes. If you say you're going to finish a specific task before entertainment, finish it. Don't create dramatic promises that sound impressive but are impossible to maintain. Create standards that challenge you and then demonstrate through your behavior that your word means something. This is especially important during a 1-week reset. Don't make the mistake of trying to change everything simultaneously. You aren't trying to prove that you can live an extreme lifestyle for 7 days. You're trying to prove that you can control your choices consistently. 1 week of reasonable discipline can teach you more about yourself than months of simply thinking about changing. During this week, pay attention to your excuses. Your excuses are information. When you hear yourself saying, "I'm too tired," ask whether you're genuinely exhausted or simply avoiding discomfort. When you say, "I don't have time," examine how much time you spend on distractions. When you say, "I'll start tomorrow," ask what makes tomorrow better than today. When you say, "I can't," ask whether you mean you can't or you haven't learned how yet. You don't need to attack yourself for having these thoughts. You need to examine them. The goal is awareness followed by action. You should also understand that discipline isn't built only during dramatic challenges. It's built through ordinary choices. Getting up when your alarm rings. Preparing your food instead of constantly choosing whatever is convenient. Taking the stairs sometimes. Completing your work before entertainment. Keeping your workspace organized. Going to bed at a reasonable time. Putting your phone away during focused work. These choices may seem insignificant individually, but together they create a person who is increasingly capable of controlling their behavior, and there will be setbacks. You might miss a workout. You might waste an afternoon. You might lose your focus. You might break a promise you made to yourself. Don't turn one mistake into an excuse to abandon the entire process. A bad decision doesn't require another bad decision. If you lose 1 hour, don't lose the next 5. If you miss one workout, don't turn it into a month. Return to the standard as quickly as possible. This is where mental toughness becomes practical. Mental toughness isn't about pretending you're never tired, afraid, disappointed, or frustrated. It's about learning how to respond when those feelings appear. You can acknowledge the emotion without allowing it to make every decision for you. You can be nervous and still act. You can be frustrated and still continue. You can be disappointed and still learn. You can be tired and make a responsible decision about whether to rest or continue. The more you practice this, the less frightening difficult situations become. You begin realizing that discomfort is temporary. The feeling of starting a workout is temporary. The frustration of learning something new is temporary. The nervousness before an important conversation is temporary. The boredom of repetitive practice is temporary. What remains is the ability you develop by repeatedly facing those moments instead of automatically escaping them. This is why doing hard things can change the way you see yourself. You stop seeing yourself as someone who needs everything to be easy. You become someone who expects challenges and prepares for them. You begin understanding that a difficult day doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. Sometimes a difficult day is simply part of the process of becoming more capable. Train your body because it gives you energy and strength. Train your mind because your thoughts influence your decisions. Practice discipline because motivation is temporary. Choose challenges because comfort alone doesn't create growth. Rest intelligently because recovery is part of progress. And every day, deliberately do something useful that requires you to overcome resistance, because each time you choose meaningful effort over immediate comfort, you are strengthening the habit of acting according to your standards rather than allowing your temporary feelings to decide what you do next. The first few days of change can feel exciting. You wake up with a new sense of purpose. You make a plan. You exercise. You focus on your work. You reduce distractions. And for a moment, you feel like everything is finally under control. But then the excitement begins to disappear. The routine becomes familiar. The work becomes repetitive. The results aren't arriving as quickly as you expected. This is the moment when most people return to their old habits. They believed motivation was the transformation when motivation was only the beginning. Real change happens when you continue after the excitement is gone. This is why the third habit is so important. Build momentum, improve daily, and become consistent. Your goal isn't to have one perfect week. Your goal is to use one disciplined week to create evidence that you can continue. 7 days should become a starting point rather than a finish line. If you treat the week as a temporary challenge, you'll eventually return to your old behavior. But if you treat it as proof that you are capable of living differently, you can begin building something much more valuable, a new standard for your life. Think about how habits are actually created. You don't become disciplined because you made one disciplined decision. You become disciplined because you make that decision repeatedly. You don't become physically fit because you completed one workout. You become fitter because you keep training. You don't become knowledgeable because you read one book. You become knowledgeable because you continue learning. You don't become confident because you succeeded once. You become more confident because you repeatedly face challenges and discover that you can handle them. Consistency turns individual actions into identity. This is why you should stop obsessing over dramatic transformation. People often want a huge breakthrough. They want one decision that changes everything immediately. They want to wake up tomorrow and suddenly have unlimited confidence, perfect discipline, incredible focus, and complete clarity. Real life rarely works that way. Transformation is usually quieter. You make one better decision than another. You improve one habit, you correct one mistake, you learn one useful skill. You become slightly more organized. You become slightly more patient. You become slightly stronger. None of these changes may look impressive on their own, but together they can completely change the direction of your life. Your job is to respect small progress. Maybe you work for an hour today instead of wasting 3 hours. That's progress. Maybe you trained even though you didn't feel motivated. That's progress. Maybe you avoided an unnecessary argument. That's progress. Maybe you learned something that you didn't understand yesterday. That's progress. Maybe you finally completed something you've been postponing for weeks. That's progress. Don't dismiss these improvements simply because they don't look dramatic enough for social media. Real progress doesn't need an audience. One of the biggest mistakes you can make is constantly looking for external validation. You post your goals, tell everyone what you're going to accomplish, receive some attention, and temporarily feel successful before you've actually done the work. Then the attention disappears, and so does the motivation. Instead of talking endlessly about what you're going to become, spend more time becoming it. Let your actions speak. You don't need everyone to know that you're changing. You don't need to announce every workout, every book, every business idea, or every personal goal. Sometimes the most powerful transformation happens privately. You spend months improving your skills, changing your habits, becoming more disciplined, and then people eventually notice that you're different. This is where patience becomes essential. You need to understand the difference between delayed results and no results. Sometimes your effort is producing changes that aren't immediately visible. You're developing skills. You're building knowledge. You're improving your decision making. You're creating better habits. You're strengthening your ability to focus. These things may not immediately produce money, recognition, or dramatic success, but they are still valuable because they increase your future capacity. Don't quit simply because the scoreboard hasn't changed yet. At the same time, consistency doesn't mean blindly repeating the same strategy forever. You need to evaluate yourself. Ask what is working. Ask what isn't working. Ask where you're wasting time. Ask which habits are producing results and which ones are simply making you feel busy. Improvement requires reflection. You should regularly step back and examine your behavior. Maybe you discovered that your morning routine takes too long and leaves you with less time for important work. Adjust it. Maybe you realize that keeping your phone nearby destroys your concentration. Move it away. Maybe you notice that staying up late makes you exhausted the next morning. Improve your sleep routine. Maybe you discovered that you're trying to accomplish too many goals at once. Simplify your priorities. The ability to adjust is a form of intelligence. You don't have to become attached to your first plan. Your goal is the destination, not the exact route you initially imagined. This mindset also changes how you respond to failure. Instead of seeing failure as proof that you should stop, see it as feedback. If you made a mistake, study it. If you lost focus, identify what caused it. If you missed a commitment, understand why. If you underestimated the difficulty, adjust your expectations. If your strategy didn't work, create a better strategy. The important question isn't, did I fail? The better question is, what will I change because I failed? That question keeps you moving. You also need to understand that consistency doesn't mean perfection. There will be days when things don't go according to plan. You may become sick, exhausted, distracted, busy, or overwhelmed. Life will interrupt your routine sometimes. Don't make the mistake of believing that one imperfect day destroys your progress. The real danger isn't missing once. The danger is using the mistake as permission to return permanently to your old habits. If you fall off your routine, return. If you waste a day, start again tomorrow. If you miss a workout, continue with the next one. If you lose focus, rebuild it. Your ability to restart quickly is more important than your ability to maintain perfection. This is how resilience develops. You also need to create systems that make consistency easier. Don't rely entirely on motivation. Put your habits into your environment and schedule. If you want to exercise, choose a regular time. If you want to read, keep a book accessible. If you want to study, create a dedicated workspace. If you want to reduce distractions, remove unnecessary notifications. If you want to improve your finances, track your spending. If you want to build a skill, decide when you will practice it. A system reduces the number of decisions you need to make. The less you have to negotiate with yourself, the easier it becomes to act. Another powerful principle is to focus on becoming slightly better rather than demanding perfection. Ask yourself how you can improve today. Maybe you can focus 10 minutes longer. Maybe you can complete one additional task. Maybe you can learn one new concept. Maybe you can make one better decision with your time. These small improvements create momentum because they make growth feel achievable. And momentum matters. When you begin taking action consistently, action becomes easier. When you become organized, staying organized becomes easier. When you train regularly, training becomes normal. When you read regularly, learning becomes part of your identity. When you stop constantly checking your phone, silence becomes less uncomfortable. When you repeatedly finish what you start, you begin expecting yourself to follow through. Your standards rise because your behavior has changed. Eventually, you don't have to constantly tell yourself to be disciplined because discipline has become part of who you are. This is why the 7-day challenge should not end after 7 days. Use those days to prove that your old patterns are not permanent. Then extend the experiment. Give yourself another week, then another. Don't focus on changing your entire life overnight. Focus on becoming slightly more disciplined each day and letting that improvement accumulate. A year from now, the difference between you and your current self could be enormous if you consistently improve. Your knowledge could be greater. Your body could be stronger. Your finances could be more organized. Your skills could be more valuable. Your confidence could be stronger. Your relationships could be healthier. Your ability to control your attention could be dramatically better. None of that requires becoming perfect tomorrow. It requires refusing to remain exactly the same. And remember, your environment will sometimes pull you backward. People may invite you into old habits. Distractions will appear. Your motivation will fluctuate. Unexpected problems will happen. That's why your commitment has to be deeper than temporary excitement. You need to know what matters to you and why you're willing to keep working when the process becomes ordinary. Success is rarely built during the moments when everyone is watching. It is built during ordinary mornings, quiet evenings, repetitive practice sessions, difficult workouts, focused work periods, and private decisions where you could easily choose the comfortable option but decide to follow your standards instead. That is where momentum becomes powerful. One good day creates confidence. Another good day creates evidence. Another creates routine. Repeated routines create habits. Habits shape identity. And identity influences the choices you make without having to fight yourself every time. So don't ask whether 7 days can magically fix your entire life. Ask what 7 disciplined days can teach you about the person you are capable of becoming. Use the first day to begin. Use the second to prove it wasn't a coincidence. Use the third to continue when the excitement starts fading. Use the fourth and fifth to strengthen the routine. Use the sixth to recognize your progress. Use the seventh to understand that the challenge was never about 7 days at all. It was about discovering that you can take control of your actions, build momentum through repetition, learn from every setback, and keep improving long after the initial motivation has disappeared, especially when consistency becomes less about feeling inspired and more about quietly following the standards you have chosen for yourself. Your life doesn't change because you suddenly discover one perfect secret. It changes when you decide that your everyday behavior can no longer remain the same. The 5 habits in this speech are simple, but their impact comes from repetition. Start by taking control of your mornings and your attention. Don't allow your phone, notifications, entertainment, or other people's opinions to decide how your day begins. Wake up with intention, identify what matters, and give your best energy to the things that actually move your life forward. Then train your body and your mind by deliberately doing difficult things. Exercise, learn, focus, complete uncomfortable responsibilities, and stop making your feelings the only authority over your decisions. You don't need to eliminate comfort from your life, but you need to prove that you can choose discipline when comfort is trying to pull you away from your goals. After that, focus on consistency. One productive day is valuable, but repeated productive days are transformative. Don't become obsessed with perfection. You will have bad days, lose focus, miss routines, and make mistakes. What matters is how quickly you return. A setback should be a pause, not a permanent identity. Learn from what went wrong, adjust your strategy, and continue moving forward. Remember that confidence is built through evidence. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you create evidence that you can trust yourself. Every time you finish something difficult, you create evidence that you can handle discomfort. Every time you choose long-term progress over immediate pleasure, you strengthen your discipline. Over time, these small decisions begin changing the way you see yourself. You stop thinking of discipline as something you occasionally perform and start seeing it as part of who you are. 7 days may not completely transform your circumstances, but 7 days can transform your direction. And once your direction changes, your future can change with it. Don't wait for Monday, next month, a new year, or the perfect moment. Start with the next decision. Control the next hour. Complete the next important task. Make the next disciplined choice. Then repeat it tomorrow. Your future self is being built by what you repeatedly do today, and the difference between the person you are now and the person you could become may begin with nothing more complicated than deciding to stop negotiating with yourself and finally becoming consistent with the standards you claim you want to live by.